Hi, this is Simon Drew, and you're listening to the Walled Garden Podcast. This show belongs to the podcast network of the Walled Garden Philosophical Society, an international community of philosophers and seekers dedicated to the pursuit of truth, wisdom, virtue, and the divine, wherever they may be found. To find out more, go to thewalledgarden.com. But for now, let's caretake the gardens of our minds, one meaningful conversation at a time. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Walled Garden Podcast. So today I'm speaking with Kai Whiting. Now, a lot of you will know Kai as one of the co-founders of the Walled Garden Philosophical Society. He's also a professor, a philosopher, a researcher in sustainability, and he does lecture on Stoicism as well. And what we're going to be talking about today is one of the key services that we are offering as a part of our whole package in the Walled Garden Philosophical Society, and that is philosophical mentoring. Many of you will know that over the past few years I've been offering one-on-one philosophical mentoring with people from all around the world, from various professions, from various family situations, religions. You know, it's been such a joy to get to know so many beautiful people from all around the world in this capacity, to be able to walk with them side by side as they make important changes in their life, using philosophy as really the compass by which they will navigate these challenges and opportunities. And so it's just been such a joy for me over the past few years, and also a real therapeutic service for those people I've worked with. And so we wanted to talk about that today. So in this episode, we are covering the ins and outs of philosophical mentoring. What is it? Who might be interested in it? What's the tradition of mentoring in the philosophical community, you might say, going right back to the Stoics? And what are we planning to do with this service going forward in the Walled Garden? So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. I wanted to mention to all of you that if you go to thewalledgarden.com/mentoring, what you'll find when you go to this page is a little bit more information about philosophical mentoring as a service, and you'll also find a list of the current philosophers in the Walled Garden Philosophical Society who are engaging in this service and taking on students from around the world. And so I'd encourage you to go to that page and take a look at the information there, and take a look at the list of philosophers who we currently have in our organization who are offering philosophical mentoring as a service. And if there's anybody there who sparks your interest, anybody who you think you'd really like to talk to, or if you're just interested in finding out more about the service, you can just go to the bottom of the page and you can apply to get philosophical mentoring. And what will then happen is I will contact you, and we will get you set up with a free consultation with one of our mentors in order to discuss the ins and outs of the service, as well as where you can go from there. And I just wanted to make a quick shout out to anybody living in the Los Angeles or Orange County area here in Southern California, because one of my clients actually lives in this area. And so I decided that now that I'm here, we might as well meet in person. And so we now meet every week at Villa del Sol in Fullerton, which is this gorgeous, iconic Spanish villa. It's got a walled garden in the middle. It's got this beautiful fountain, and you really couldn't find a better place to sit down, to breathe, and to discuss how we can move towards better things in our life using philosophy as our guide. And so I'd encourage you again to go to thewalledgarden.com/mentoring. If you'd like to meet with me one-on-one in person, we can absolutely do that. But otherwise, just take a look at all of our mentors who we have all around the world, these incredible individuals, and see if there's anybody who you'd be interested in talking with. And you can apply there. So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to Kai Whiting and our conversation on the service, the therapy, and the tradition of philosophical mentoring. Hello, Kai. How are you, man?
Hi, Simon. Really good, really good. It's been a while, hasn't it, that I've been on the podcast?
Yeah, man, it's been way too long, but we're going to fix that because you're not escaping from us this time. And no, man, it's good to have you back on here. And obviously today we had a specific theme that we wanted to cover, but I wanted to kind of kick things off by letting you know. Uh, Actually, I'll bring you into our latest developments in terms of the way that we're thinking about what we're doing in the walled garden, because we obviously had that meetup last week where we were talking about the sanctuary, both the theme that we find in sacred texts and also just the general meaning of what a sanctuary is. And we got some really good feedback after that session. It was awesome, just hearing from people in the session, as well as afterwards through email. And it really helped me to put the pieces together of how we should be looking at what we're doing in the walled garden. It finally dawned on me that what we're doing in the walled garden is not altogether different from exactly what I did when I was managing the gym in my hometown of town of Nambour. Because if you go to a gym, you might get one of three types of memberships or services. The first one, you might just want to get access to the gym. You're a self-starter. Great. Okay. So a few bucks a week, you can get into the gym. The next membership you might want to get is if you want to get group fitness sessions. And there's all different types of group fitness, trainers. And so you might like yoga, or you might like bar, or you might like some HIIT training, things like that. But you can get that membership where you can go and get your group fitness training. But then you might want a personal trainer. And the personal trainer is going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to be one-on-one dedicated time with you, focused on your physical health. And a lot of people really, really want that. And so those are the kind of three memberships you get in the gym. And that's exactly how we're going to look at what we're doing in the walled garden as well. Because in the walled garden, you come along and maybe you just want the extra content that we're delivering. I hate the word content, but it works for our times. You might also want to go to group fitness sessions or the group mentoring sessions, or the group discussions around these profound philosophical or theological topics. But then you might want the personal trainer. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the personal training of the philosophy world, the philosophical mentoring, which is a service that both you and I are experienced in. And on top of that, we're really backing with everything that we have in the walled garden now, because we genuinely believe that it's a really effective service. And personally, I believe that philosophical mentoring should/will be recognized as just an effective service for dealing with the many, the vast, mental load that we are all dealing with right now. It is a therapy. It is a form of counseling, and it is just as valuable and I hope we can talk about that today. You know, what it really is, what is philosophical mentoring, why do we believe that it actually works, what have we seen in our clients, and what's the history as well. So I don't know, I'm going to throw it over to you, Layla. Where do you want to focus on today?
Well, I like the fact that I can simply put in a disclaimer first of all. So it's the same thing. You don't go to the gym if you're really, really physically unwell, right? So we're not
Yeah,
suggesting here that it's a replacement in any way, shape, or form to what you might call psychological therapy. In the same way
definitely.
that if you have a bad back, you've got a pinched nerve, the gym is not the place for you, right? But assuming that you are within the boundaries of what we might call healthy, physically healthy, then the gym is a place to get fitter, right? Not necessarily healthier,
Yes, that's a
but
great way to
fitter,
put it.
right?
It's a great way to
And
put it.
I think philosophical mentoring does that. It's about mental fitness. It is not about mental health, right? And people need to know that. So once we are on the understanding that it is mental fitness, it is building a better capacity in your mind to deal with your own problems. Because basically, people think about the gym, I can lift a weight. Yes, but also when I'm in the garden, I can lift a weight, right? I can lift that weight. I can rely on my body to do things that it wouldn't otherwise do if I wasn't training. So of course, people will think, okay, just in terms of gym, I can lift this 25 kilos per side of my barbell. So I've got 50 kilos plus 20 kilo barbell. That's what I can do. But it's more than that. It's I can rely on my own body to do things that it wouldn't otherwise do. And of course, there are times again, if I might injure myself, I cease to go to the gym and I get as psychological potentially and physical, a doctor to look over my physical body. But I do like the idea that, and I do think it's increasingly important to look at your mindset, right? And you can get a self-help book. I mean, you're absolutely right. You can do that. I've done it. You've done it. We can all do it. The thing is, when you write a self-help book, having now written one, you're writing for not a generic audience, not generic, but you're writing for an audience. You're writing for a certain group of people who you think have, relatively speaking, similar challenges. When you're personal training, which is why when I go to gym, sometimes I do have a personal trainer, I'm looking at a specific problem that I'd like to solve. So, for example, if I want to bench more, for me, a personal trainer makes sense. I can use a Smith machine, so it's not that I have no options whatsoever. But then I can push myself that a little bit harder because not only the person's going to balance the bar. Firstly, I have to learn to balance the bar. So it's another mechanism. But they're also going to tell me, Kai, you've got another one in you. And I don't want to push that bar up one more
Yeah.
time. The instructor's going to tell me you've got at least half in you, and he or she is going to lift it up to help me. And I think that's a really good metaphor because you're saying, okay, what is it specifically that I want to solve, right? And then the way that we do the mentoring is like asking those kind of questions so that you become more reliant on yourself. It's not a case that you come back to me or you every Friday with the same problem, think, oh, I couldn't solve my problem this week. Someone please help me put another plaster, or use an American expression, a band-aid on the wound. That's not the case. It's like, well, last week we had this mechanism. How well did that mechanism work under pressure? What kind of pressure was applied? Okay, maybe let's dial back a bit. Maybe that was a bit too much. Let's go again and see if you can react in your own time to that same issue. Or, for example, is it your attitude? So something that I said to myself was, if someone can die without resentment, that means I can also die without resentment, right? It's a very Stoic principle. So sometimes I get frustrated, I get irritated because things aren't going quite my way. And the Stoics would say, if other people can have a sense of harmony, a sense of tranquility, whilst waiting for something they really want but haven't quite got, then so can you. Now that's the book, that's the theory. But you could come along and go, Kai, do you remember when you were in the supermarket and you were trying to apply that principle? Didn't quite work. Because the book is not going to tell me where I slightly, didn't quite, well, basically where I missed the mark. It's not going to tell me that. It's going to tell me the general framing, but it's not going to be able to point out and go, well, why, Kai, did you miss the mark in that supermarket? What was it about the fact that the conveyor belt was moving that little bit slower than you wanted to? Why did you react in that way? And a self-help book isn't going to tell me that. It's going to give me the general principles. The same in the gym. If you've got a piece of equipment, you can use it. Other people can help you. You've got the general principle. But when you want to lift a little bit more, is it your technique? Is it the lack of chalk? Is it your mindset? What is it? Is it that you're too tired? Only a personal trainer can really tell you. And yes, eventually you'll then learn it yourself, right? And the personal trainer doesn't have to be there 24/7. So I think this is something that we can easily, easily used as a kind of metaphor. It does break down eventually, but I do think that it's important that people recognize the kind of nuances in that approach.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I don't mean to keep on, beating a metaphor that we've been talking about for the whole episode so far, but yeah, I think there are so many ways in which this kind of personal trainer versus, personal trainer of the mind, kind of works. Really, and another thing to consider is, when you go to a personal trainer, and I've experienced this because I've done this work before. Sometimes the trainer looks at the student and says, what they really need today is encouragement. Sometimes they'll say, and what the student really needs today is somebody just to listen to them. Sometimes they'll say, okay, a student today needs some resistance, meaning let's get going, let's get fired up. And I think that what I've experienced over the past, 4 or 5 years of mentoring my own students, clients, co-travelers, I prefer to call them, is it's about listening as intently as you can to the particular needs of the moment, and listening to the particular needs of the particular person who you're currently dealing with. Because I can certainly say that my uh while my generalized method may remain constant over all of my sessions, the particulars of how I deal with every single one of my clients is completely different, because everybody is unique. Everybody requires something different from you. And so even in the way that, when you go to a gym, like I said earlier, you might want to do yoga, or you might want to do bar, you might want to do hit training, you might want to do, there's so many different types of training. And what's cool about what we're doing in the World Garden is we've got a whole bunch of different types of trainers. And that is really exciting, because we can have somebody come in and say, you know what, I am really interested in stoicism. Great, we've got a stoic coach for you. I'm really interested in hermetics. Okay, well, we've got somebody who's more focused on the mysticism, or this side of things. We've got all these different types of people, but they all come from the same place of, what's most important is that we're aiming up, and that we're moving in the right direction, and we're trying to wrestle with these questions together. And it's in that constant wrestling with these profound questions about what it means to live a meaningful and rich life, that the therapy, and I mean therapy in the broad theme of, it's therapeutic to the soul. Genuinely, that's what I mean. I'm not saying it is legally defined as therapy or counseling, but I'm telling you, what I've seen in my clients, and I know what you've seen in yours over time, is it is a genuine avenue toward a therapy of the soul. And that's what I love most about it.
Yeah, I mean, I always smart people say, well, I don't need a mentor, for example. I don't need one. I'm like, well, you don't need one. Okay. Senior Citium had one. Cleanthes of ASOS then borrowed it, took Zeno and said, so basically searched for him, and Zeno took him under his wing. He became the head of the staff. Would he have done that without a mentor? I doubt it. Given that Cleanthes was cognitive, it seems to be that Cleanthes was cognitively impaired. Styrus, he goes off to Sparta. He becomes the mentor of a Spartan king, King Cleomenes III, who we talk about in being bad, chapter 7. Who's his mentor? Zeno Citium, right? You look at Epictetus, who's his mentor? Masonius Rufus. You look at Marcus Aurelius, right? People are like, oh, I just read Marcus Aurelius. I don't need a mentor. I'm like, did you read chapter 1?
Chapter 1.
Did you read chapter 1?
All it is him praising his mentors, or the people who came into his life and genuinely moved him in the right direction.
So that makes me laugh, because it literally does make me laugh as I type. Because I think, yeah, it's true. We do have Marcus Aurelius. He can be a mentor of sorts. Of course he can. And in our, own form of meditation, when we write that publicly, otherwise we can definitely credit him. However, he would be the first person to stand up and go, really? You had all these living people that were really good at something, and you mustered up only me?
Yeah.
I'm almost 99% certain that he would find that amusing, right? That he would be like, really? Because Seneca mentored. It was not. If you have a carpenter, he or she has been mentored, apprenticed. or gone under a apprenticeship at some point. It just seems strange to me that there are certain professions where we think, like in terms of philosophy, I can just read, I can watch YouTube, I can watch, for example, Dr. Greg Sadler's excellent series on YouTube, and that is all true. No one's going to deny that fact. However, it isn't made for you. It isn't designed for you to go from level 1 to level 2 to level whatever level you would like to go to. It's to give you a general framework. And of course, and the same was true. They had when they wrote down things, they wrote them down. They had scrolls, and people could read, the scrolls, and they could understand the scrolls. There's nothing in Stoicism that you need a special magic key of some description. But that doesn't show, that doesn't take you to the next level necessarily. And I can point to my own life. Many people in Stoic academics that study Stoicism, for example, A. Long has mentored me, and Christopher Gill has mentored me.
Yeah.
And Leonidas Konstantikos has mentored me on certain issues I didn't know about. And William Stevens has mentored me, and John Sellers has mentored me. And people say, "Oh, you really understand Stoicism?" Yes, because I didn't just read Marcus Aurelius. I didn't just read Epictetus. And they go, "Well, that's good enough." Depends what you want to do with it, right? In my case, to become an excellent, or try to become an excellent academic, in contemporary academia, there's nothing that Epictetus could teach me really in that specific role. Yeah. He could teach me the principles of Stoicism. He wasn't going to teach me how to be a good academic, or a strong academic, I should say, in the 21st century.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to happen.
But the principles naturally flow into the betterment of your career and everything that you're trying to achieve. And I should mention as well, I say this not in a kind of bragging way, but to demonstrate exactly the point that you're saying there, because what you're saying is, really doesn't matter who you are. This form of kind of philosophical mentoring can be beneficial to give you these general frameworks. And I can say, I've got limited experiences in a few different fields in my life, but when it comes to philosophical mentoring, I've worked with everybody from just the kid who just got out of school and is moving into university and really wants some good advice, right up to psychologists, counselors, philosophers who work at universities, CEOs. I've worked with first responders of a variety of different branches. People who work in the corporate space. I've worked with just this vast array of different people, and every experience has been unique and beautiful. But ultimately, we're always talking about these fundamental principles of how do I see clearer? How do I hear clearer? How do I speak clearer? How do I put the chaos in my mind into enough boxes that it actually makes sense? How do I make order out of this chaos that's happening within me or without of me? And I also find it interesting that it turns into a really beautiful synergistic relationship as well, where over time, the conversations get deeper and deeper and deeper. And perhaps we move in a more theological direction. Perhaps we just keep on going down the philosophical path. But ultimately, I'm always interested in allowing the student or the client to go on this adventure themselves, not telling them what to do, but asking questions, or prodding just a little bit here or there, or oh, why do you think that, or why do you think that, and over time the relationship just gets deeper and deeper and more profound, and it's so beautiful. And I've made incredible friends through philosophical mentoring, because we always end up realizing that we're just kindred spirits, because it's like, they were drawn to mentoring with me, and I was there to be able to do that with them. But always this very beautiful growing. And what I would say as well is just that I guess over time I've been really grateful for the fact that these beautiful people have come into my life with that intention of, what, I want to be better, I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to get stronger and wiser. And what that does to me as well is it places a big responsibility on us as the mentors, but also that responsibility is beautiful because I learn from every single client, and I grow and get stronger from every person who I talk to. And I think that is also part of it, is just I say this to every single student who comes through my virtual doors, you might say. Although I will say that today I'm meeting one of my clients over here for the first time in person in California, which is beautiful. But the first thing that I tell everybody is, here's a great quote from Seneca that can give you an idea for how I'm approaching this. He says, "Do not think of me as somebody who's just kind of, pointing down at you saying, do this, do that, like I'm perfect. No, I'm just another sick person in the same hospital as you. And I've found a few remedies that work for me. I'm just relaying them to you and saying, this has worked for me, this has worked for me." And that's exactly how it is, because none of our mentors in the walled garden, despite their incredible accolades and their incredible experience in their fields, none of our mentors in the walled garden would consider themselves to be perfect or complete in their philosophical path, right? We all understand that this is something that you walk your entire life and you're always trying to be better. And so we're all sick because none of us match up to the sage, you know. But in the end, what we do have is, I'm going to give you one more analogy and then I'll throw it back over to you because I've been rambling for a long time. But there's this great analogy that the jazz trumpeter in Australia, James Morrison, used. He said, think of mentoring like this, or teaching. We're in a train together, except I'm a few carriages ahead of you in the train. Now I'm looking out my window and you're looking at your window. I can just see a few things that you maybe can't see yet. And I'm telling you what I'm seeing, and that's what mentoring is. We're all on the same train here, but perhaps we feel as though we've spent enough time in our fields or in our exploration philosophically that it makes sense that we can offer guidance or at least friendship along the philosophical path.
I mean, I think it's also practical. People often say to me, "Well, what is it that you help, your students do, regardless of whether it's, say, philosophical or more career-minded?" And it is things like, help people think about their marriage in a different way. Like, think about why, they might say they have come to me and said, "I'm having an argument with my wife over and over and over again." It's like, what is that about? And then picking that apart. Is it actually that argument, or is it something else? Is it actually who does the dishes, or is it more of not listening to the fact that someone needs to do the dishes, if that were the case? Or helping people choose a career, like choose a job. So I've helped a lot of people go, say, I want to move career. How do I do that? What are the kind of things I need to be thinking about? And it's just practical stuff. Go, yeah, okay, you're thinking along the right lines. What does your CV look like? Oh, I haven't thought about my CV. Something as simple as that. Like, you're sitting there, you have a really good attitude. You're looking at jobs, you're applying for them, and it's like, have you double checked your CV recently? Like, is it exactly the kind of job you're going for? Is that CV that you might have done it last week, but is that CV targeted towards the job that you're looking at, or did you use it for a sort of more generic role? So yeah, because you're just so used to sending it. Or, for example, I've done like interview practice, so I might ask me the question and say, "Why do you want to work at this company?" And they'll say things like, "Well, I want to grow and I want to do these things." I'm like, don't forget, when I ask you that question, it's about me. So what I want to hear from a company perspective is, why do you want to work for me? And I want to hear things that, not just I want to grow and I want to do well, because that's true of anybody that I ask, thinking, well, I want to work at your company because actually I know that you have this particular issue, having researched it, and I know I can contribute to this particular challenge that the company has in this way, rather than telling me, well, I'd really like to grow, I'd like the opportunity to earn a bit more money, because that means that you're just talking about yourself. You're not talking about what you bring to the company. So I say to people, whenever a company asks you, why do you want to work for us? You don't talk about you at all. You actually talk about how you fit into the company and what problem you've solved. And if you do that, you're 10 times more likely to get a job, as if you talk about, well, I'd like the opportunity to live in California, for example, you and everybody else. That's not going to give me a reason to give you a job. Things like that, like just these mechanisms of going, so it pays for itself, doesn't it? Because you might have paid, let's say you paid me $100 for that hour, but you got that job. And you got that job not because I gave you the answers, but I just highlighted to you in the 5 minutes where I listened to you talk about why you wanted to work for a particular company, and you just talked about yourself. And I go, well, don't say that in the interview. Think about it. Think about what they're actually asking you. And you can't know that. It goes back to that, that metaphor of being on a train. I can see I can see a little bit further ahead because I've been there and I've done it. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes. I don't want you to come back and go, oh, it's because my CV is not good enough. It's like, actually, it was nothing to do with your CV. You just spent the whole entire interview talking about yourself, and I didn't feel like you were a good fit for the company.
Yeah.
How can we show a different way? So I think mentoring isn't just sort of like how to be a better character, sort of the more nebulous sense. I think it's also in the practical sense, because we do
You bounce
bring
between the two worlds, right?
exactly. And so people sometimes think that philosophical mentoring can't offer them something like how to pass their driving test, or how to get a job, or how to have a better relationship with their children, or how to change career, or how to, how to do get a skill. They're not very like public speaking. I've helped a lot of people with public speaking, right? And one of the tips I would give anybody who wants to be a public speaker is write your speech out, record it, listen to it, however long it takes you, double it, and that's your time, right? So if it takes you 8 minutes to read it, it's actually 16 minutes in reality. Then you'll not rush, because you won't go, oh my gosh, I haven't finished, and panic. So that'll stop you doing that. That's one tip, for example. And then so public speaking, you break it down to, as I said, you took you 8 minutes to read your script, and take you 16 minutes in reality. So that gives you a time frame. That tells you that you're not spending, too many words or too little words. You know how long it's going to take you to say it. That's so comforting, because you're not going to rush. I never have to rush my slides. At the end of a presentation, never have to do it, because I've already factored into that time. And I say, if it's not your first language, add 5 minutes. For every 20 minutes you're going to speak, add 5, because you're going to stumble. You're going to think, I don't know that word, or I can't find it. Doesn't have to. It might not be a native language, but somebody who's not used to speaking that language every day, all day at work, for example. So it might be a native language, but something like that. And that just takes away the pressure, because they don't then speed through a slide, forget what they have to say, panic because they've forgotten an important point. And the other thing is, like, even if you've forgotten an important point, make sure you put it in the Q&A. So you get to the Q&A, you've just realized you had the key point, you didn't say it. Someone will ask, normally they'll ask you a question related to what you've just said. So you say, well, yeah, and you give them the information. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you gave them the information in slide 7 or you gave them in Q&A question 3. The point is that you got what you thought was the message you need to get across. So even something as simple as, or as complicated as public speaking, if I were to mentor someone, I could say, this is how you do that. And that's a practical tip, right? Yeah. So again, it's not saying,
I mean, if we take that kind of, these particulates, you might say, and then look at the broad scale thing that's happening here. I mean, firstly, there's a very, very fine line between dialogue and critical thinking. When you're engaged in dialogue, it's especially with, with another person, is dialogue, right? Like, you've got your internal dialogue, but it's like every time you think, okay, well, I've got to do this. How should I approach this? Well, maybe I could do this. And then you come back and you say, hold up there, maybe think about it like this. I consider that moment to be exactly the same in its principle as when you're doing one repetition in the gym, except it's happening in your mind. That's resistance on your thinking. That's resistance on your mind. And you then have to summon what you have, the best of what you have, to think about that. Oh yeah, you know what? I never thought about it like that. Or I wonder what would happen if I did this. And then you push back, and then they push back. And it's this beautiful, harmonious dialogue that's happening there, where there is just the right, just, if we're doing our job right, just the right amount of resistance that's going to get the mind thinking, growing, learning, getting stronger. And I mean, to me, the equivalent of a mind getting stronger is a mind getting wiser, because that is really such a vital skill to develop, or and what do you call it? Skill to develop.
I think there is some skill in it, certainly, because knowledge is something. It's not information; it's information converted into something useful. I can't give people knowledge as a teacher. I can't do that. What I can do is give information and techniques to convert that information into knowledge. But I can't give you knowledge. That's not something anybody can give you. But I do think there is value in having information that you can convert very easily and very quickly into something immediately useful. So, I think books have it. Obviously, as an academic, I think books have their place. And there's no way I could have knocked on, let's say, Christopher Gill's door without having shown him that I've read his work. I know it, I think I know it quite well. Not very well. I know it quite well. I'm interested. I want to learn more, right? it's not that there is substitutes. I could not have turned up to Professor Gill's door and gone, right, I want you to mentor me. That's not how mentorship typically works. It's something that you have that aligned vision, and you've done the homework, which is why even though there is it's an easier access point that we offer a service, we still don't offer a service just because someone. This is what I really like about the Walk God. Just because someone offers to give us a certain amount of money over a certain amount of time, we also have a point of matching people, of showing why this relationship would work. So in my case, as you know, I like to set a lot of homework. So whoever comes to my virtual door comes with the understanding, and certainly now after this episode, that there will be homework, and that homework needs to be done, because otherwise they're still coming back to me. And I always say, like, if within a year, you're still coming back to me with the same issues, mentorship isn't working. Ideally, you don't have to come back to me at all. And after that year or 2 years maximum, you don't have to come back unless we're going to work on this very specific thing. So you might say, now I really want to know about this Stoic theology and how that would work. But generally, the general scope, I'd say, after 2 years, you shouldn't need me anymore. You should be finding another mentor who's going to give you the next step. And that requires homework. So if someone came to me, I don't want to do homework, I said, well, we can do it, but the mentoring process isn't going to work as well, because my thing is to make you less and less reliant on what I have to teach you, to the point that you can teach yourself. Yeah, terrible business model. Well, in theory, right? Because if it works, then people go and tell other people, right? So, but I think that's what we do. We're not interested in just going, let's take some money and that's it. I know that you've worked very hard on the system to know who you can have people who choose specifically to work with yourself, or myself, or Sharon, for example. But you also have people who say, I'm not sure who I want, and then we kind of make a judgment call based on what they've actually written. So I think it is. I would encourage anybody who's listening to this and going, well, I'm actually slightly, I am interested, at least fill in the form. Fill in the form, and then have a conversation. And it may not be the time is right for you. I think everyone would benefit from a mentor. Sometimes it's not the right time. I'm not going to say that everybody should benefit from a mentor at exactly the same time in their life, because if you don't have the mental space to do the homework with me, you're not going to get as much out of it. And the same is true as you. Like, if someone comes to you and they're not willing to battle through the challenges, you're going to go, well, I can sit and talk to you, but that's not really what our mentorship is about. It's not a conversation. It goes deeper than that. It is a Socratic dialogue as opposed to just a general conversation. And I don't think it's mainly with psychology. A lot of times you might just get a lot of listening. I don't think that in my case that is what's happening, because the idea I tell my clients is, my answers are not important. My questions are not important. What's important is your answer. What's important is how you're reacting to what I'm saying. And that's the person you need to be listening to. That's how you're going to find out you've got cognitive dissonance. You're being incoherent. You thought you believe something which you actually don't believe. You thought you understood an aspect of Stoicism, but you keep saying to me that it's about the dichotomy of control. But I've just shown you again, when you've come to the situation with your dog being really cross and not doing what you want, that you're going, well, you just told me in the dichotomy of control, you can't control that dog in that respect. So then you don't really understand the dichotomy of control, just for a silly example. But it may be important if someone's having a puppy that's really not doing what they want, and they're at that risk of losing that dog because it's not in the it's not acting within the boundaries that it needs to do in order to live in an urban environment, let's say. So I think our mentoring covers all those kind of issues, and we're not just I know for a fact that you're not just sitting there listening and like tell me more, right? We're prompting, we are discussing, but it's prompting and it's challenging. And I know from my clients, they say, oh, I thought it was going to be easier. I thought it was going to be easier. I'm like, well, no, because I want to get you in the shortest and most effective way possible to where you want to be, so that we don't somebody said to me, I've come here for this particular reason. I can't believe actually that I've actually learned A, B, C, D, E, and F. I only ever thought we were going to cover A. And you broke the issue I had with A in episode 1, lesson 1. So it's like, well, yeah, because as you've said yourself, it's about having journaling with someone. It's not just about solving one particular problem. It doesn't. We can do that as well. I know that you've said to me before, can you mentor this person for just for 2 hours? And it's like, yes, because they have a specific problem. But generally, I mean, the way that thing I like about the walled garden is it is a journey. It is the journey around the garden. It is walking through, looking at the flowers, looking at the grass, looking at what's going on, looking at the sky, and taking a different aspect of that view.
Yeah,
Would you say the
yeah.
same thing?
I absolutely agree, and I do want to pick up on a couple of things that you said there, because you mentioned, it's about what you want to get out of it. I think that's exactly right. However, there's like a side idea that I want to bring in here, which is that uh, by nature of the fact that it's called philosophical mentoring, it's not purely about what you want to get out of the mentoring. Because if you come and you say, hey, listen, I want to become the absolute best murderer that I can be. Now, the philosophical mentor is going to say, we should really have a conversation about aims. Why do you want to do that? Why do you think that's going to lead you to happiness? Is happiness even the goal for you? Is the happiness the
True.
goal for any of us? We really, like, you can get just sucked into these vortexes of philosophical discussion where I've had some of the most beautiful conversations in my life with people because we just started going, you know what? You wrote this down in your personal ideal, you wrote this down in your journal. It's like, I get it, but would you think about it like this? Or I don't know, is that even the right aim? And it opens people's minds and starts getting people to think, oh my gosh, yeah, this is about aims.
Mm.
That's everything. And I was heading in this direction for so much of my life. And I didn't realize that, wow, there's something more profound here, or there's some better thing that I could be moving towards. And the second thing I want to pick up on, which you said, is I just want to second what you said about uh, if you're just kind of on the edge and you're just thinking, oh, maybe I'd like this, maybe not. Man, just book the initial consultation, like, or just fill out the form. And I personally, I'll make a guarantee that I'll meet with you for free for the first time if it's just a half-hour session, just to chat, just to get to know each other better. Because to me, I want to remove as many roadblocks for people just getting a taste of what it is that we're doing here, or just to get a look in, or just to have a conversation about what it might look like. And I also want to mention that, while we do have our standard pricing on the Walled Garden website, which represents the price that we believe that this service is worth, and we've thought about that, and we've been discerning in the way that we've chosen that price. Nonetheless, I think that all of us are willing to sit with the student and talk about the particulars of their life and say, oh, okay, so you're a student now. Okay, so maybe this is going to be a little bit much for you, but I know that this mentor here is, that's around the price that they're charging, or what, I can do that, and here's a discount code, or I can work with you on that. I think all of us share this sense that, we can't just, especially with the service that is so beautiful as this, with a service that is so important as this, we cannot be uh, extremely rigid in the way that we approach this, because every student is going to come with a different set of life challenges and needs. And there's going to be the CEOs and the people in executive jobs or whatever it is, who come and, hey, the price that we're offering is like, a third of what they would pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
I've
but
had that
ultimately,
discussion as well.
but what I'm saying is, we're trying to pick a price that we believe is fair, but don't let that ever be the reason that you do or don't, you know, at least book in that first session or fill out the form and say, hey, you know what, I'm in need of help. I could use something like this, or I'm interested, because we want to work with, we want to work with people who really, really could use and desire to see change, through this service.
I
I
think
hope I put that
that's
in the
good.
right way. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think we're tricking anybody by saying, yeah, there is something you do have to invest. It's in my case, as you know, it's the homework, it's time outside the classroom, which matters more because that shows me you can do it for yourself. There is a financial cost. There is a financial cost to most things in life, right? So yeah, as I said, we do offer, most mentors, myself included, you're including that, we offer 30 to 45 minutes, depending on who it is and how complex their challenges, for free to see if we match. Because if we don't, it's not, nobody benefits from thinking, oh yeah, we're going to work well together if it's inherently obvious that we're
Yeah.
not, right? There's
It's
no
no skin
benefits
off
for
our
us.
back to say, hey, you're better suited to this person or to that
Yeah.
person, like,
Or
yeah.
it's not the moment for you, because we've had discussions with our people when it's got clear it's not the moment for them. So there's no point again selling a service, because then we're jeopardizing our vision, and we're jeopardizing what we believe as a community that wants to improve things. Like Zeno Citium never forced Stoicism upon anybody. He wasn't interested. If you're interested in Stoicism, he was in the public square. We're in the public square. We're there. We're standing there. If you want to come up and hear what we have to say, that's great. If you then want to take, the Zeno Citium by the side, like, I'm really interested in mentoring, he'll say, okay, do this, that, the other, show me that you're interested. And that's exactly what he did. There's no difference of that. Mentoring is an ancient model, I would say. I mean, Marcus Aurelius proves that point. What I wanted to ask you, Simon, was could you tell me a key mentor of yours in your 20s? So I know we could say as a child, but I think it's easier to say as your 20s. Could you tell me who was a mentor for you? What that mentor did for you in terms of how much time or energy and effort do you think you saved as opposed to not having that mentor at all?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've had so many mentors in my life. Whether it's going to the Conservatorium of Music and having a trumpet teacher or a voice teacher, like that's a form of mentoring, was vital for me. But philosophically speaking, I have to say that Sharon is the person who was really she was the person who I kind of latched onto. I think, the mentor and the mentee, they kind of find each other in a way,
I would definitely agree with that.
they find each
Yeah.
other, and so, I came across Sharon and I started speaking to her more often. And then we started, speaking, just one-on-one. And Sharon was the perfect mentor for me. And the reason is she has an extremely artistic, creative mind. And on top of that, she has profound experience dealing with artists throughout her entire life. And I think that the most profound moment for me being mentored by Sharon was when I actually showed her the first scribblings of what would later become The Poet and the Sage. Because what she did in that session where I was talking to her, I basically came to her and said, hey, listen, I just wrote this. I have no idea what it is or why it's here. And here it is. And take a look at this and, tell me what you think. And she did everything exactly right in terms of just the right amount of encouragement, to say, you know what, like, you need to keep on writing, man. You need to keep on doing this, and giving me good advice as an artist and a writer and a thinker. And what that did for me, I mean, look, I'm now a couple of years after that, and I've just written hundreds of poems, released my first book, which was it was like the outpouring of what I've first showed her. And I've made so much progress in these various areas. And I really look back at that and I think, if I didn't have Sharon there, I really don't know if I would have written any of those poems or continued this in the way that I did. And I think, in a sense, what's happening in the Walled Garden now is I'm bringing all of these beautiful people, into our mission, and everybody mentors me. Kai, you've mentored me. You've worked with me as I've done academic papers, or as I've done, applied for grants. The very practical kind of academic world side of things. Uh, you know, Everybody in the Walled Garden has mentored me in some capacity. But I have to say, yeah, when it comes to the person who I think about, who really got me in the right direction, apart from everybody I talked to on the podcast, obviously, because that is something that really I see as a type of mentoring that I had. But yeah, Sharon for me, that's what I'd say. But what about you, Kai? Like, talk to me about, your mentors.
I think as I do that, I want to just, because I know that people put in Google a lot how to find a mentor, right? So I get emails from people all the time saying, can you mentor me, and telling me why they need a mentor. And it goes back to what's in it for me, in the sense of why would I pick somebody? So if you're looking for a mentor, the first thing you have to show is interest in that mentor, right? Regardless if it's Walled Garden or not, this is literally like, it could be anybody on the planet. you have to show interest in that person. It is not about how much you need a mentor, how much you would like a mentor, how much you're willing to pay a mentor, how somehow they can do you a favor. That's not how mentors work. A mentor will do you favors. That's how it's going to work, right? But they're only going to do those favors if they realize potential. So in the Simon example, he came to me and he was looking for a grant to do what turned out to be a music CD, actually. He didn't come to me like, I really need your help because I want to win a grant and you're an academic and therefore I think that you should mentor me. That was not the approach at all. It was, I want to learn from you. I know that you can teach me A, B, and C, and D, and I know this for that reason. And this would give me this opportunity. And I know that it's something that I could then bring to the community. And it was a much bigger vision than me just doing a couple of favors. Because no mentor, regardless of how well you know them or not, wants to feel like they're constantly doing you favors because it's tiring. And if one does a favor, it's because they see that mentee will grow into that capacity and eventually, quote unquote, pay it back in some way. And I said to you, the way that you pay me back this effort, because it was a few hours over a few days, I said, you better win the bloody grant. That's what it was. I said, that's how you can pay me back. And you won it, right? So you did pay me back. So it was like, that's the kind of mentality that you're going to go into as a mentor. You're not going to say, oh, there's something you can do for me personally. That may well be the case. It's more like, show me that I'm right to invest time in you as a person, right? So when Chris Gill, in terms of Stoicism, he saw that I was interested in his work because other than Leonidas, who also I work with, he saw I was interested in the environment, and I looked at his work and I thought, well, I actually have an environmental engineering background, so I can really help Chris Gill sort of strengthen his philosophical arguments because I have the factual science basis for doing that. And I made that case that there would be a mutual benefit in some way. So, he does write papers occasionally on the environment still, and he might ask me, what is the factual information? What is the science behind my argument? And be like, that's not quite right. That's not quite how climate breakdown works in the scientific sense, right? That might be, for an example. So he saw that I had potential, but he also saw that I had the potential to enrich his life or his work in a particular tiny aspect of his own career, right? It wasn't a massive impact on his career. Obviously, he didn't need me to do that. So if you're looking for a mentor, the first thing that you need to ask yourself is not what they can offer me, but what I can offer them. That would be what can I offer Sharon, for example? What can I give Sharon? Because no one actually says, it never works this way, like, Simon, can you be my mentor, please? That's not how it works. It's a very organic thing. And you would make Simon aware as to what you would offer Simon and make it very crystal clear and complete whatever you said you're going to give Simon, for example, you would then say, this is what I'm going to give you. And then you deliver on that. Then you deliver again. And the third time normally that you deliver something, Simon goes, maybe I should mentor this person. That's exactly how it works. So most people struggle with this because they come about it the wrong way. They pick whoever they admire, which is nice. And they think this person can do A, B, and C for me. And they never, ever see it as, what can I offer them? Because no mentor is going to just give you freebies. Unless they're your dad, they're just not going to give you freebies, right? And then that's what Simon did. Simon showed me that he was worth investing in, that he could take what I was offering him, which was very little, was a seed, and he could grow it into something. And then we're looking like 2 years down the line, and he turns around and says, look, now I know how to do grants. Now I know how to put things together. Now I want to run something that's going to eventually be called the Walled Garden. Are you interested? And that's how mentorship works. So that's why I want to encourage you, if you're a member of the audience, like, regardless of who you want as a mentor, if it's one of us, then fantastic, or not, the best way to go about it is to think, envision yourself in 2 years' time and make that person a reality to the best of your ability with the help of a mentor. With the help, they're just guiding you, but they're not the wind, they're not blowing you down the road. They're just saying, you put that sail here, put the sail here, careful as the boom goes around, duck right now, right? They're going to do that. but no one's going to sit and invest in you if all you do is end up being sort of what we might call a parasitical relationship, where the mentor feels that they're giving a lot of their energy and getting nothing back. Because a mentor will pick you on the basis of they want to see you go better. I always want my mentees to do better than me in whatever they're chasing, right? And pursuing is the right word. I want them to do better than me, but I don't want to be sucked dry. Does that make sense, Simon? I think
Yeah, totally.
the audience need to know that
Well,
as a question I always get asked.
I mean, I think this goes back to, what you're saying earlier on about, this is about becoming stronger. This is becoming wiser. This isn't necessarily like a mental health thing, and so like
Where it shouldn't be, even when
it
we're
shouldn't
not,
be.
it shouldn't be.
And I think that to your point here, it's about saying, there's that great analogy that Jordan Peterson uses, which I think is it's just perfect. When you're trying to save somebody as a lifeguard, you go out into the ocean, you don't give them your hand because they could drag you under, you give them your foot. And you say, if it's going to be you drowning or both of us drowning, it's going to be you drowning. So I'm going to give you my foot, grab onto the foot, and I'll help you get in, but it's like, ultimately, I like what you're saying about encouraging the student to have a vision for their life, have a vision for how they really want to grow and learn. And honestly, I wouldn't discourage people from reaching out if they haven't yet reached that point, because with the first exercise that I give anybody who comes and works with me is to go away and write their personal ideal. And what that it does is it essentially gets them to the point that you're talking about there, where
Yeah.
they can go away and they can think, okay, what do I want my family and relationships to look like? What do I want my career to look like? What do I want, my community contribution to be, my spirituality and religious communication or commitment? All of these different areas. I have about 5 or 6 areas in your life that I want people to focus on. And I say, just go away and write about these and then come back to me and we're going to talk about your ideal. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be uh, uh, exactly what you're going to move towards, but it has to be like, just drop all of the defenses and say, who would I be if I could be the very, very best what I am right now?
Okay.
And then they come back and it's like, oh, look at this, maybe you're falling behind in these areas, but maybe you're doing really well over here. And maybe we can work on this, we can work on your weak spot or something like that. But it really just gets people in the right frame of mind to start thinking, you know what, I am going to aim higher. I am going to dig deeper. I am going to move towards something that is a more profound life and existence. And so I think it's valuable what you're saying. I would just say, don't let that be the reason that you don't reach out, because some people just really need that encouragement to start thinking big.
So can I clarify?
Totally, yeah.
What I
And
mean is,
I
yeah,
don't
and I'm
mean
glad
to.
that you did that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's not that I need you to have a vision. What I need you to know is that I am not responsible for your vision, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
is because when I have emails from people who basically say, I like your work, and I always ask them about my work, and it's amazing how many people can give me nothing about my work, right? They haven't read Being Better. That's my favorite. Have you read Being Better? Not yet. Well, that's a good place to start, right? You and I were, chuckling because we know people who have done that to me. I really wanted you to mentor me, but I've only read chapter 1 because that was the one that was available for free. I mean, that's just not showing any initiative. So I'm not going to be responsible for anybody's vision. I'm not going to pull you along. You're not going to ride my coattails. I'm not going to push you up the hill if you're not also putting your leg up to try and
That's it.
take the
It's
next step.
about putting the effort in the
Yeah.
process and showing that this is
Yeah.
important to you. It's not just a thing that you're paying every week. Yeah,
Exactly. I'm willing to put my shoulder to your will, but if you've got the brakes on and all you have to do is push a button to take the brakes off, then why should I be the idiot? Because it would be me being the idiot pushing you up the hill when frankly you don't want to go. So that's the key thing. Like I'm very grateful to you, Simon, for pointing out. So it's not that you, Simon, and I, or any of our other mentors, or any mentor in general, needs to have a concrete vision, but they have to have some clarity that within a certain set period, that the person that they're going to mentor is willing to create a vision and go through it on their terms. Yes. And not sit there and go, but Simon, you didn't set me homework. But Simon, you didn't push me. But Simon, you wasn't there when I had the argument with my kid. But Simon, you didn't say it exactly that way. You're like, yes, I didn't, because I gave you the general principles. I gave you concrete examples. You brought them to me every Thursday. We went through them, but I can't hold your hand. That's not mentoring.
Mm.
That's not mentoring. Holding hands all the time is not 100%. That's called helicopter parenting. I'm really against that. Like, I have to hold your hand. You have to be by my side. You have to follow in my footsteps. And if you don't, I'm going to blame everybody else around you except me. Right? That's not. It's gripping when you need to grip. It's letting go when you need to let go. With the understanding that regardless of who you're mentoring, they're going to take a step. Sometimes it's a leap, and sometimes they haven't got a leap in them. So that's when we take a step forward. But it's not a case of like, let me carry you through your journey, because in the end, what happens is you become reliant on the mentor, and it's no longer a mentorship. Because the idea, in my mind anyway, the idea is that you get so, like Epictetus, you get so good they can't ignore you. Whether you were a slave, whether you were in poverty. I mean, his mentor was the Roman Socrates. That was Mussolini's Rufus's nickname.
Yeah.
But you look at Epictetus now and you say, in the modern sense, and go, wow, most people know more about him to do with Stoicism than the Roman Socrates. Most people don't know that Mussolini's Rufus was called that. So it's that idea of, I want to help you, I want to push you forward, but the step always has to be yours. I didn't have to, for example, in your case, I didn't have to find the grant for you. That's another favorite thing. Like, help me find a grant. No, you find the grant. I didn't have to get you the paperwork and tell you to turn the printer on and tell you to, when you basically, you already had a draft by the time I looked at it, we had a discussion, and you went away, you did a draft, and I said, this is how you should tweak the draft. And there was a lot of tweaking involved. There really was. The second time around, there wasn't so much. And then by that point, you were able to do it. And that's the idea. No one wants to, well, none of us as mentors, at least in the walled garden, want to be helicopter parents. We don't want to tell you how to do everything. So you don't have to have a concrete vision, but you do have to have a concrete understanding that you are the only person responsible for that goal. Even if I gave you advice, you immediately took that advice for your own context.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right there. And I mean, certainly in my experience, I've never had somebody come to me and be like, you should have done this, or you should, it's I've often found that
You're lucky.
yeah, but I mean, generally I've found that the people who come to philosophical mentoring and are willing to, pay the price and things like that, they put the effort in, and they want to make things better in their life. And so no, I think this is beautiful, man, and I think this has just been such a great conversation, even just for clarifying, what are the commonalities between how we mentor, and what are some of the differences. But what I want to say to people is that what we're doing in the walled garden, the direction that we're going, and this should all be functional this week after you've heard this episode, is that model that I talked about at the start of the episode, where we're thinking, okay, so you've got these three different directions you might go when you enter the walled garden. You might just want a little bit of, some extra philosophy here and there, and, come along to some events in the walled garden philosophical society. Great. The next one, there will be that membership option where, hey, if you want to come along to all of our groves, where we're putting on these great group meetup, sessions where we're talking about the different types of philosophical inquiry that we're all engaged in, great, you can come to that. That's going to be the gym, the group fitness for your mind. But if you want to work one-on-one with a personal trainer, but in the philosophical mentoring sense, for your mind, for your soul, I think it's important to point that out as well. Then we're going to have that option available to you, and it should be pretty easy to find on the website, these membership options, or these service options. And I just encourage you, and I'm sure Kai would do the same, just jump on there, take a look, see how it feels to you, give us feedback on how it all looks and feels. And also, if you feel as though you could use a hand to hold in the looser sense, as you walk on your philosophical path or your spiritual path, or if you've just got some very practical problems that you're dealing with in your life right now, just reach out. Heck, even if you don't want to fill out the form, send us an email if you've got our email, whatever it is, just, let us know that you're interested in potentially, trying this service out. And, I mean, our guarantee is that we'll do everything that we can to be the best philosophical mentors that we can be. Kai, I had this vision a couple of years ago, and I kind of thought, wouldn't it be good if we could get ourselves to the point, as in if I could get, but now I'm speaking in terms of the walled garden, where what people paid us for is to get stronger, wiser, better, and then to share everything that helped us to do those things with the people who are paying us. Do you know what I mean? And I see that as my job as a philosophical mentor. Yes, it is about the student. In another sense, the payment also goes towards, well, I'm buying books, I'm working on myself, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting wiser, because you, as the mentee, you want the best possible mentor you can have. And so I think I should point that out as well, is that all of us philosophical mentors in the walled garden, we're doing the work as well. And we're doing the work with you, and we're doing the work on our own in quiet, and we are trying to become stronger, wiser, better. And this is a mutual process. And so I think that we're creating that kind of organization in the walled garden. And I'm so excited to see what happens over the next few years, because I'm going all in on this philosophical mentor. I'm going to push it out there into the world and say, this is a genuine, effective service, and it should be known by a lot more people. I'm going to make sure that it does get known, because I really believe in it.
I think there's not a bad way to end an episode, right? So,
yeah, man. Thank you so much. It's so great. This has been so great, man. I love you so much. I really do, Kai. And I'm honored to be working with you in the walled garden. And I know that this is, as one of my my friends in Australia recently said, I believe that the walled garden is, we are building a society or a culture here that will outlive us. That is my hope, and it's beautiful. And I'm honored to have had you alongside me since the start, man.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I really hope you enjoyed this conversation with Kai Whiting on the therapy, the service, and the tradition of philosophical mentoring. And I'm so excited that we're offering this in the walled garden now, with just brilliant philosophers from around the world. So as I said at the start, if you'd like to find out more about the service, or to apply to get that initial consultation where it's a free call with the mentor of your choice, just go to thewalledgarden.com/mentoring, and you can find more information there, and you can register at the bottom of the page. And again, another quick shout out to anybody living in the Los Angeles or Orange County area. I would love to meet with you one-on-one in person. And so if you're interested in that, again, just go to thewalledgarden.com/mentoring and apply, and just check my name on the way out. All right. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you next time on the Walled Garden podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Walled Garden podcast. Remember that this show is a part of the podcast network of the Walled Garden Philosophical Society. If you consider yourself to be a seeker of understanding, of wisdom, a cultivator of virtue, then we want to learn and grow with you. Just head over to thewalledgarden.com to find out more. We'll see you there, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.